Hey, what's up? I'm Darkbblue, trying to help you enjoy games in depth. In this video, I'll go through the theory crafting principles for Hellclock. Following the principles, you will be able to theory craft your own build and have some fun. This game's build theory crafting is quite simple. You can simply divide it into three aspects: damage, rotation, and survivability. Let's first talk damage. To improve your damage, you need to do three things: complete your core synergy, grab as much multiplicative bonus as possible, and balance the investment in different bonus buckets. The core synergy comes from unique relics, especially those tied to specific skills, as well as certain constellation nodes. They will reshape how your skills work. Usually, such synergies are straightforward enough. Every skill has around 3 intended synergies. This webpage lists all the uniques for your reference. Let's see an example. I've been using the repeater build for my previous campaign walkthrough video. Repeater by itself is a physical skill, and a unique can convert it into fire, at the same time allowing it to generate AoE grenades. Another unique instead triggers Plague Explosion on kill. Apparently, these two uniques belong to different synergies, since they have different damage types. Here I choose the latter since I already played the former before. Then I spec into this constellation cluster to convert the physical damage of the repeater base bullet into plague as well, making it a pure plague skill. Besides this, a unique allows repeater to generate a Veil of Quail projectile on hit, which also deals plague damage. This looks energetic at first glance, but the Veil of Quail projectile does spell damage, not marksman damage. This reminds me of another unique that converts marksman skills into spell skills, which could serve as another synergy layer. But what I want to play is exactly marksman skills, so I decided not to use this synergy. Lastly, a unique can apply repeater to Phantom Marksman, effectively transforming this into a summon build. It theoretically has a higher ceiling than using the skill myself, but since I played this synergy before, I don't want to use it this time. Just like this, you can go through the unique list and find out many interesting synergies, around which you could build your build's foundation. With the core synergy settled, the next step is to grab multiplicative bonus. So let's first talk multiplicative and additive bonus. Suppose we have a base damage of 100 and two bonus that are both 10%. If the two bonus are additive, the final outcome would be 100 times 1.2 equals 120. But if they are multiplicative, it's instead 100 times 1.1 times 1.1 equals 121, which is higher. Apart from it, also note that the resource investment required to get this to 10% bonus is roughly the same. Therefore, additive bonus has a phenomenon called diminishing returns. The more you invest into it, the less rewarding it becomes. Whilst multiplicative bonus is always as rewarding as how it initially is. Naturally, we want as much multiplicative bonus as possible. So how to tell if two bonus are multiplicative in Hellclock? The first method, check the brackets after the bonus value. Let's see an example of Life Regen. The first bonus, 1.5%, is not followed by any brackets. This means it adds to the base value. The second bonus has a plus sign in the bracket, meaning it's additive. It will first add up with all the other additive bonus and finally be multiplied to the base value. Lastly, if a multiplication sign is in the bracket, it's a multiplicative bonus. The second method is that some bonus is essentially conceptually multiplicative. For example, damage bonus and attack speed bonus, damage bonus and projectile amount, or bonus to your own damage output and the reduction to enemy defense. Lastly, even when two bonus don't have a multiplication sign, nor do they multiply by concept, they can still be multiplicative. To know such cases, check this Discord post. Here I quote, "Damage bonus against enemies that are in a certain state as together. Skill damage bonus including bonus to a certain skill and bonus to a skill tag as together." In addition, elemental type bonus, skill type aka marksman, spell and melee bonus, and crit damage bonus are 3 different buckets. All in all, you want to grab as many multiplicative buckets as possible. The 2 former methods are very important. As for the last one, well, let's hope the devs could implement a better in-game glossary. The last step is to balance your investment in different buckets so that you don't invest too much into a single bucket and thus suffer from diminishing returns. When you do so, however, don't rely too much on the numbers shown in the character panel. For example, you might feel I have too much plague damage, but in fact this number counts in the multiplicative bonus I get from Constellation, so it's inflated. Lastly, I believe I need to elaborate a bit on the dot mechanics of Hellclock, which can be quite complicated. So there are a few ailments, but among them only bleed in correspondence to physical and ignited in correspondence to fire are damaging. So first, bleed. Bleed damage basis of your base damage, and it can stack infinitely. From this information, you may feel the faster you hit, the better it will be for a bleed build, but things aren't that simple. In fact, an attack doesn't always apply a bleed stack, it only has a chance to do so, and the chance is based on the proportion of this hit's damage to the enemy's current life. Therefore, you cannot totally give out hit damage and stack bleed damage only. You still need considerable hit damage to be able to apply bleed at the first place. Practically speaking, as long as a skill isn't very slow yet hard-hitting, it has the potential to make a bleed build. Ignited is exactly in contrary, a basis of your hit damage but cannot stack. Every time ignited takes, only the ignited effect with the highest take will actually deal damage. Also, fire hits always inflict ignited, so there's no such a thing as ignited chance. So slow yet hard-hitting skills are exactly what you are looking for if you want to make an ignite build. Next, let's talk rotation, including skill cooldown and mana sustain. To solve cooldown, you have 3 options. 1. Simply stack cooldown speed. 2. There's a cluster near the starting constellation which shreds all ongoing cooldown when you gain an agility orb or power orb. And 3. Bombardment skill can be used to shred cooldown with the help of 2 uniques, one allowing it to reduce cooldown and the other making it follow you and move around. By the way, I want to mention that cooldown in Hellclock also affects the cast speed of spell skills. Instead, spell skills can't benefit from attack speed. For mana sustain, well, you have 2 options. 1. Simply stack max mana. This is because mana regen is not a flat value, but a percentage of the max mana. So the more max mana you have, the faster you can regen mana. And 2. You can use this red constellation cluster. Melee hits give you vigor stacks, which will then be consumed to give you a 0 mana cost buff. If you are not using a melee skill, it's still possible to utilize this cluster. To do so, you need to further spec into this yellow cluster and this green cluster. In this way, you can gain a vigor stack when gaining an agility orb. Obviously, this solution costs many constellation points, so if you don't have enough points to spare, you can always fall back to mana stacking. Finally, it's time for survivability. The choice for this depends on how you solve the rotation problem. Of course, no matter which option you choose, you always need to cap your resistance. It's just a common activity across all looter ARPGs. Then if you intend to fight T13+, you need to mind that your resistance will be shredded by another 25% when entering the map. To survive, you have two options, life stacking and mana stacking. For life stacking, you'll first stack max life to provide a base max hit pool, then stack life regen for recovery. It's also fun to stack leech. Leech in this game actually works as another kind of regen that has a higher base value but requires you to hit someone recently. It's based on your max life rather than the damage you deal. Finally, an important thing to do is to cap endurance to amplify your max hit. It converts 75% of the damage taken into dot when capped, which is a huge boost to defense. Also note that you need 20% overcap if you are doing T13+. If you go mana stacking, you need to stack both max mana and max conviction. Conviction works as energy shield. The base value of max conviction bases off max mana, and can be further amplified by max conviction percentage. Then how could we recover conviction? You can see some nodes in the bell that converts mana spent into conviction. However, this is not what you need, as the conviction gained from this effect is too small. Instead, we need to gain conviction based on max mana or max conviction. This usually comes from skills with cooldown, including but not restricted to closed body, so you need to solve the skill cooldown. Lastly, to further increase max hit, you need mana shield. It converts some of your life loss to mana loss. I recommend a mana shield value around 85%. Note that this stat isn't penalized in New Game Plus and Endless Nightmares, so it won't change when you do T13+. After all the efforts, you can further stack evasion for both life stacking and mana stacking builds. Evasion can improve your effective or average HP, but cannot increase your max hit, which is why it's placed after the full life or mana stacking solution. Also, evasion receives an additional 20% penalty in T13+. Now you have two options, but which one to choose? If you don't have to stack mana to solve mana resistance at the first place, I recommend life stacking, as it's easier to use. But if you are forced to stack mana already, just choose mana stacking. In summary, following the threefold principles, you can theorycraft too. Hope you can have some fun in Hellcloud. If you want to play games into depth together with me, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, see you around.